Hello, everybody. Welcome again this evening. It's close to midnight. If you can see up there, it's not. It's about. It's on its way. I'm watching right now. Currently, the Starship SN-15 for its flight test, but it's going to be a few minutes, I think. And I thought, well, right now I want to talk to you about somebody who was a very important part of my life growing up. Such a character, and that's my Uncle Neal. My Uncle Neal was my father's brother, and sadly they both passed away now. My Uncle Neal a few months ago, but he was such a character when I was growing up. When I used to sit around the campfire with the other adults, I used to tell stories about him, and everybody knew, or they knew of my Uncle Neal actually. But when I was really young, before he got married, and I was pretty young. He used to come by and steal me out of the yard and just take me riding without telling my mom. It used to really anger her. She would call my dad and say, "Travis, your brothers keeps doing this, and blah 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 blah. Didn't tell me anything." And my Uncle Neil, he loved life, but he didn't really care what other people thought about anything to do with him. But he used to put me in his pickup truck, and we would just go driving everywhere. All these dirt roads, hit big mud holes, this kind of stuff. Just drove me all over Grant Parish, which is where I grew up at. Good part, most of my life actually. When I was growing up. Now they lived out off of Highway 8, halfway between Bentley and Colfax, actually, and really big old house, just a huge house. I remember it being, and he lived in the back of the house. He had his bedroom back there. He lived with his parents, and after he divorced, which he wasn't married very long, and he had a son, but he wasn't. He moved back in. Actually, he built houses for a living is what he did, and he did a lot of things for a living. But building houses was one of the major things I remember doing because I used to work with him in the summers. He and my grandfather built houses and did all kinds of projects, that kind of stuff together. Well, he was always doing crazy stuff. I remember one day he came back home and plastered to the front end, the grill of his pickup truck, and he had one of these, I don't know how you explain it, a short bed pickup truck, an old short bed pickup truck with the fender wells on the outside. And he came back home one day with a coat attached to the front of it that he had hit and just stuck to the front of it, But he was full of stories and full of just laughter. Something he did one time is there's a place, it was a holler called Haunted Holler. When you pulled out up Highway 8 a little bit, maybe a mile or so, it went down, the highway did, direction Colfax. And he used to go out there and park his truck in the wood line, and he would get him like a small purse or something like that, attach it to a fishing line and put it in the middle of the road and wait for people to come by at night. And one night, it was one of the stories he told me. He said he was sitting there, the purse was out in the middle of the road, and the car come by. The guy grabbed the purse and took off, so he lost the first purse. So what he did is that he went and got him another purse. And he got a heavier fishing line and did the same thing, and he spent a while there, and about an hour or so, and sort of getting tired of sitting there, and he's just about to leave when he heard a car coming that was just putting, and he used to tell the story. The car was putting. It was put, and the car stopped when he saw the person. He pulled up on it, and the guy opened up his door, reached for it, and my uncle pulled that purse a little bit. He reeled it in a little bit, and he said, "You can see the guy's face in the light of the truck," and the guy double took it. He looked at double take, and he's shaking his shoulder, and he just reached a little further. And my uncle pulled that purse a little more and said that door shut. And that guy, these are the kind of stories. I mean, I remember driving with him, and he was crazy. He'd look over at you and he goes, "Does a fart have lumps?" You would say, "No." He goes, "Oh, I must have crapped in my britches." Or he would look over at you and he goes, "Boy, we need to pull over, let you shake your britches out," he was just so full of stuff, and he used to sing. One of the fantastic things, he had a great voice, and he sang a song, "Rain's dripping down the neck of my shirt, like I ain't got nothing on." And he used to sing that song all the time, and a lot of other songs. But I just remember that one so well. He he also stayed in a bit of trouble too. I mean, I think he's been to jail. He'd been to jail a couple of times for just goofing off and doing stuff. But it's funny because he worked for the local judge, and he worked for him for a while at his family-owned. That noise is my cat right there running around. He found something to play with because I'm preparing to move. I got lots of boxes, that kind of stuff, and things are just out and about. But he worked at his gravel pit up on Highway 8, and he used to work there. And so if he got in trouble, he always had someone there who would sort of overlook things for him. But he got in trouble one time. I think he spent several days in jail because he got called up for jury duty. And he walked in and he says, "Hey, where's the motherfucker we're gonna hang?" And he yelled it out, and of course, they booted him, and he got sent to jail for a little while for that too. He was just so full of stories like that, so full of stuff, and just a character. He throughout my entire life, growing up, he was always there. He was always a character, and he was one of those type of people who would give the shirt off his back to you, if you needed it, and even if he had nothing else, he would give you something. And he was a very giving and very loving person, and he's married several times, had lots of girlfriends. Matter of fact, I'm still on Facebook with several people. Well, sadly, two of his former wives have died now, but I'm still on Facebook with their kids. And it's fantastic. Kids that I grew up with. They all remember Neal. So very well. And it's funny, he also always had some kind of contact with them also, with his ex-wives. Some way or another. I don't know. Not the first one, but all the other ones. Well, he was always doing something, and he just. I remember one time we had to pick corn. We had the corn harvest came in, and my grandpa, his father, said, "Listen, we got to get out there and pick the corn." So I remember him. We had these bushel barrels, bushel buckets, and we were running around out there in the cornfield, and he was barefoot with just his overalls on, and he was going left and right, just picking corn. And I think we picked all that corn in the afternoon, actually. It was a good acre of corn, actually. But he was such a character, and he always had something funny to say, and he was always telling some kind of funny jokes, and he was well liked and well loved, and in the end, sadly, his health was very bad. He'd had a stroke and lost his voice for a while and wasn't really able to walk, and one of the biggest problems he had is that he was a lover of food. I mean, well, it was a problem for him because he loved food so much. He used to come over to our house and he brought his own plate. And it was a platter. He would load it up and he would eat, and this guy loved eating, and he loved, he loved life. He did. But he was obese. But I tell you what, the biggest guy I've ever seen, but I've seen him on top of a house, bending over, hammering nails. I mean, like it was nothing, 2 stories up. He just went at it, and, the first time I ever went hunting, he brought me hunting, and I was very young, and he brought me hunting. He had a 410 shotgun. He sat me down by a pine tree. We were squirrel hunting, and he disappeared. He didn't come back for hours, and of course I was like by myself out there. He did something completely different, He came back, he'd been deer hunting or something, But he was a big hunter, and he used to. I remember one year he actually brought in 11 deer, and he would hunt every year, and he'd go fishing and that kind of stuff. And I remember one time my dad and I and he went fishing. We had these creeks along the highway, along the road into Colfax, and we'd pull over and fish, and we'd bring. We'd use cane poles and line and hooks with live bait, worms or whatever, and we'd catch them as a brim or whatever, in these little holes and that kind of stuff. And I remember one time we were out there, and my dad had brought a 8-pack. I think it was an 8-pack of little Miller beers, little Mickeys, I think they called them. And I drank the whole thing by myself, and I couldn't have been more than 8 years old, 7, 8 years old. I was a little buzzed. That was it, because that was like drinking water, But yeah, I mean, we did so much as a family, and he also was a great carpenter. He was very well known for his cabinetry work. He built beautiful cabinets and gun cabinets, this kind of stuff, and he could just do about anything. I mean, he could weld everything. There was nothing he just couldn't do. He was a mechanic, everything. He could manage it all. And I just wish he could have managed a little bit more his health, because he'd still be with us right now. My father too. They both would have managed their health a little better. They'd both be with us still today. But he was a character. He was a good guy, well liked, well loved, and he was very close to my sister, who also passed away. And very close to us. I mean, my my stepmom, my mom Judy, she really took care of him a whole lot, in these past years since my father passed away. There's a story about he and my dad. He and my dad decided, well, let's go. What, was this thing going now? No, it's still there. It's right there. Actually, just changed the camera angle. They got into they started going around collecting like all kinds of iron and stuff from people. People had iron, like old cars. They just want to get out of the yard. They would go and collect them, and they'd sell them and making good money doing that for a while until my uncle got sick, actually. But yeah, in the end, my mom was taking care of him a lot. Making sure that he had plenty of food at home, even though that he just didn't take care of himself, sadly, as much as he should have. And yeah, he had a crazy life. He never really left Louisiana that I can remember. I think he came to Texas, maybe Mississippi. I just don't remember him ever traveling anywhere. He stayed at home. He was a homebody. He was a home guy. And he stayed home because that's where the fishing and the hunting was at. And he was a hard worker, and he liked working. And I see a lot of myself in him when it comes to character, because he had a huge one. It was bigger than he was. So anyway, a little funny story about my uncle. I'm sure I've left out a whole bunch of things that I can't remember anymore, because he was just so full of stories and that kind of stuff. But a lot of the ladies loved him. I mean, he just was the women loved him. I mean, he was so good with talking with women, and the way he carried on and stuff. And yeah, even in the final days, I've spoken to her on the phone. He passed away, and he's been cremated, and there's someone right now holding on for the family, for his son actually, his ashes. So in about 2 years, when his son is able to get back to the area, they're going to have a ceremony for him. But he's definitely earned it. My uncle has, and just such a character in my life, and I think a lot of lives of other people. So I mean, where I'm from, you mention his name, everybody knows him. I don't know if it's good or bad, but they all know him. But anyway, I want to thank you for listening to my story, and if you liked it, give a thumbs up. If you have any questions, if you have a crazy uncle, put it in the comments. I'd love to read about it. And if you have any questions, also give me a shout. But anyway, I'm going to go back to watching that. Hopefully it takes off in the next few minutes. And anyway, you take care of yourselves, and you guys have a good evening. Goodbye.